Breathe deep. Imagine your legs more limber in Duluth Trading Double Flex Denim. Envision euphorically squatting for that can of suds, bending for your toolbox in a state of bliss, lunging for your laser level on a whole new level. Relax and allow the flex to fill you with ability. Find your inner flex in Double Flex Denim only at Duluth Trading.
Only Murders in the Building, Season 5.
The hit Hulu original is back.
The night Lester died, he was talking with this mobster.
Was he killed in a hit?
We need to go face to face with the mob.
Get ready for a season.
Buongiorno, signore.
Oh, this is how I die.
You can't refuse.
You're going to save the day, like you always do, by being smart, sharp, and almost always by mistake.
The Hulu original series, Only Murders in the Building, premieres September 9th. Streaming on Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus for bundle subscribers. Terms apply. New episodes Tuesdays.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5 o'clock. Good morning. It is Thursday, September 11th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine today. Beautiful day on the way. A little warmer than it has been. High 79. Tonight and overnight, a few passing clouds. Low 64. And then Friday, sun and clouds. High 76. If you're walking out the door with us right now, 58 clear in Pearl River up in Rockland County. 57 clear in Freehold over in New Jersey. And it's 60 and clear right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
The search continues for the gunman who assassinated Charlie Kirk. Cops cuffed the man wanted for killing an elderly couple in Queens. Is Mayor Adams about to end his re-election campaign? LIRR workers say they're really ready to walk off the job over wages. And a 9/11 family gets a gift 24 years later. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. We'll tell you everything we know about the assassination of Charlie Kirk in Utah yesterday. A manhunt ongoing for the killer of the activist, influential Trump ally who died after being shot at the university in Utah yesterday afternoon. Now, 2 people were arrested. Maybe you saw the video of that elderly man who was arrested at the scene right after the shooting. He was let go. Then we were told by the FBI later in the day that somebody else has been arrested. Well, overnight, that person has been let go. So it's not clear. We could not get any details from police if they have any leads on the gunman. But authorities seem to think that that person or persons who were involved in the shooting are no longer on the campus of that university. So Kirk, of course, shot at this Turning Point rally at Utah Valley University near Provo. There was a couple hundred students at this event. Of course, everybody's got their phone out, so unfortunately we have the moment that he was shot.
Counting or not counting gang violence? Great.
It happened during a Q&A with students. Now, if you're not familiar with Charlie Kirk, and I imagine a fair of you are not, so he is a young activist, has been tied to the Republican Party. If you're in that community, he is very well known. And what he's known for are these Q&As that he does with students where he debates students. So he'll hold these events on college campuses, and he invites everybody. And what he especially liked to do was go one-on-one with people who disagreed with them. But they were great conversations to watch. I mean, if you saw them, a lot of students would show up to challenge him, and they liked challenging him, and he liked challenging them back. So there's footage, of course, of this large crowd scattering at this outdoor event, and that's what this event was, one of these Q&A events that he has held at many campuses across the country over the last couple of years.
As soon as he was shot, he, just kind of went limp, fell over, and then everybody just dropped and went down. And I had bodies on top of me.
Yeah, that's one of the witnesses who was at the scene. No doubt you probably saw the video, which I am now sorry that I did, of Kirk being shot in the neck. Lots of college students saw it front and center.
Just one shot straight into Charlie Kirk, and that was it.
I was 15 feet away, and it was really hard to witness. As the guy said, shooting or shooters or something like that, you just hear the gunshot and I'm sorry. You just see his neck just open up and there's just so much blood that just came out. It was horrible.
And at these events all across the country, local politicians would show up as well. In fact, yesterday, former Utah Congressman Jason Chaffetz was at the event.
I was watching Charlie. I can't say that I saw blood. I can't say that I saw him get hit, but I did see him fall immediately backwards into his left. And I can just hope and pray that somehow he survived.
No, that was before, obviously, we found out that he had passed away.
As soon as the shot rang out, everybody hit the deck. And then everybody started scattering and yelling and screaming, as you might imagine.
And as there was a period of time as we were waiting for word on what happened to Kirk, and if you saw that graphic video, I'm sure you had the thought, like I did, praying that he would somehow survive, but it's not surprising when you heard that he had passed away. Here was the President Trump on Charlie Kirk yesterday.
This is a dark moment for America. Charlie Kirk traveled the nation, joyfully engaging with everyone interested in good faith debate.
In a video Trump posted on Truth Social, he called the incident a dark moment for America, saying now that Charlie's voice has become bigger and grander than ever before.
Charlie inspired millions, and tonight all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror.
The president, the White House, saying that they will find those responsible for those actions.
My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it.
Now, if you are not familiar with Charlie Kirk, he really appealed to a younger generation. He was only 31 years old, married, 2 kids, young kids. Maybe you saw the pictures of those kids yesterday as we found out about his assassination. But he was real viral with kids. TikTok videos everywhere, millions of followers on all those different social media platforms. And he had President Trump's ear for a long time. Kirk's impact on politics immense. Hogan Gidley was the former White House deputy press secretary for President Trump, and he says the president did lean on Charlie Kirk.
He would tell them where he thought that they were missing it, where there were some problems, where to focus on, shifts in strategy, if you will.
And there's no doubt that Kirk's organization, Turning Point USA, became key in the conservative movement, with the president saying it many times. Kirk was instrumental in getting him elected both times.
He didn't even hint at violence. He didn't hint at anything other than honest, open debate and conversation. The roll up your sleeves, door knocking, engaging with voters. This is what he understood. Again, at such a young age.
Yeah, he got involved in politics at the age of 18. So again, this is what we know so far. Manhunt ongoing for the killer of Charlie Kirk. 2 people who were arrested yesterday. You probably saw that senior citizen who was pushed to the ground. They say he has no ties to the shooting. And then a second person the FBI was talking about yesterday afternoon, they have now released him, saying there is no ties to the shooting. So it's not clear if police have any leads on the gunman, but authorities don't seem to think that person or persons is still on campus. And of course, as more details come in on this horrible assassination, we'll pass them on to you. WABC News Time 509. How about a little bit of good news on what has been a grim and will continue to be, unfortunately, a grim news day. That man wanted for torturing and killing an elderly couple in Queens in their home on Monday, then setting that house on fire. Thank God, police have cuffed him. They've taken into custody. The search for 42-year-old Jamel McGriff came to an end yesterday after NYPD officers spotted and arrested him at Lucky Strike in Times Square. This was about 6 o'clock last night. Police nabbed McGriff using technology that tracked him across the city. So they knew who they were looking for. They used all kinds of video doorbell camera to sort of follow him over the last 48 hours. And he was using the victim's credit card, so that made it a little bit easier. But in the end, it was just cops who were really alert in Times Square who caught him. And as you might guess, neighbors back in his neighborhood in Queens excited that he has been caught.
You just wonder, why couldn't you just take what you wanted and leave them alone?
Yeah, so apparently he used the victim's credit card at the Regal Union Square movie theater, then has made his way to Times Square. This man knew McGriff from a men's shelter up in the Bronx, and he said there's just something not right with him.
But that's so coward, man. You know, an elderly couple, man, that's like the most coward thing that you can do, man. You know, and the guy walked around here like he was some tough guy. And then you go and murder an elderly man. But there was something about him. It was off.
The horrific double homicide left the Belrose neighborhood and the city in shock. But now the relatives and family of Frank Olton and his wife Maureen can rest a little bit easier knowing that the person that murdered them is behind bars.
I mean, like, you really have to be careful. These days, like, everybody is so unexpected. Like, you can't let anyone into your home as much as you want to trust people and, you know, have some faith in them.
Yeah, McGriff had been going door to door in Belrose looking for someone to charge his phone. At least that was the ruse he was using. And then when he got into their home, he robbed this couple and then murdered them, I should say, allegedly. He has a career criminal, a level 3 sex offender, a lengthy criminal record that stretches 30 years, which, of course, begs the question, why was this guy even back on the streets?
These days, many people have bad intentions. The society we live in is not something that it used to be.
No. Motive in the end was just theft. And of course, as that woman asked in the neighborhood, why did he have to kill them? Why couldn't he have just robbed them? 5/11, Governor Hochul blaming President Trump for that looming LIRR strike, with engineers for the busiest commuter railroad in the country threatening to walk off the job next Thursday. Hochul was asked Wednesday whether she'll ask President Trump to intervene.
The White House already intervened, and they screwed us in the process, right? They never should have given license to stop the negotiations. They never should have shut it down and said that's enough and giving authority to strike.
Governor Hochul says that action gave engineers the authority to strike. They rejected the MTA's contract offer, which was 9.5% over 3 years. They want 16% pay raise over 3 years. The governor also blaming local leaders on Long Island, GOP leaders, for not preventing this walkout. Now, the walkout hasn't happened yet, but it could be as soon as next Thursday. Would impact 200,000 daily LIRR commuters. The LIRR, the biggest commuter railroad in the nation.
Where are the Republican members of Congress who supposedly have a direct line to the president, who represent the very constituents who will be harmed by this? The president did something rather extraordinary and almost unprecedented, which is to say, okay, go ahead and do what you want now. Go ahead and strike.
Okay, the White House would push back against that. Unionized workers are taking a strike vote now. That vote will be tallied apparently on Monday, and they could walk off the job as soon as next Thursday. Of course, we'll continue to follow the story as more details come in on the negotiations between the MTA and the LIRR. We'll pass them on to you. 5:13. We had the Charlie Kirk shooting, but we also had a shooting at a school yesterday. A teenager who shot two fellow students before turning the gun on himself at a high school in the foothills of suburban Denver. He passed away. So the male suspect, they haven't identified him. This was Evergreen High School. Died from self-inflicted injuries. The shooting was about 12:30, so it was about 2:30, 3:30 our time in about this school that's about 30 miles west of Denver. It's not clear what the motive was. Here was the sheriff's department speaking out yesterday.
All shootings occurred on school grounds, some inside, some outside. Law enforcement did not fire a weapon today, and the suspect does have gunshot wounds.
Now, as they look for a motive, and of course it won't make sense even when we find out the motive, they say that they think a fair amount of students at the school may know why this gunman opened fire.
We haven't been able to talk with the shooter. We're going to have to do some of that hard work ourselves. We have a lot of kids to interview. That'll probably help shed a lot of light on relationships and acquaintances.
Okay, so the two students he shot, thank God they're still alive, but they're in critical condition. The gunman, he again, self-inflicted wound, he shot himself. 5:14. A jury's now been selected in the trial of the alleged would-be Trump assassin.
A 12-person jury and 4 alternates have been chosen to hear the case of Ryan Ruth, who will represent himself in a Fort Pierce federal courtroom. As the jury selection process wrapped up, the 59-year-old defendant called it racist, pointing out prosecutors struck 2 jurors who were black. Judge Eileen Cannon asked Ruth if he wanted to make an official Batson challenge, a legal procedure used when an attorney claims the other side is trying to strike jurors based on sex, race, ethnicity, or religion. Judge ended up denying that challenge after prosecutors denied any allegations of racism, explaining the one juror was excluded after providing inconsistent answers on the jury questionnaire. I'm Joel Malkin.
All right, in a moment, we'll tell you about this push to release the Epstein files. It's gaining steam. We'll get into that in just a moment. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Good morning, Justin Ella.
Good morning to you. Excuse me, Noam Laden. We'll start here on the diamond. In Philadelphia, the Mets lost again to the Phillies in increasingly more convincing fashion as this 4-game series moves along. The final score 11-3 in last night's game 3 of 4. The Phillies opened a 10-game lead over the second-place Mets with 16 to play. Juan Soto launched his 39th homer and had 3 hits for the skidding Mets, who lost their 5th straight. They are 2 games ahead of Cincinnati and San Francisco for the final National League wildcard. Clay Holmes was pulled after facing 2 batters in the 5th. He was charged with 4 runs and 6 hits with 3 walks and 2 hit batters. New York pitchers plunked 4 Phillies in the game. Up next for the Mets, David Peterson will get the start in tonight's series finale at Philadelphia, with New York trying to avoid a 4-game sweep. First pitch from Philly is scheduled for 7:15. As for the Yankees in the Bronx, they got routed once again by the AL Central leading Detroit Tigers in the second game of a 3-game set. The final score 11-1. The Yanks bullpen has given up 18 earned runs over 2 games, raising its ERA since the All-Star break to 5.37. New York has lost consecutive games by 10 or more runs for the 3rd time. The others came in September 1908 and August 1988. Detroit has outscored New York 23-3 over the past 2 nights and won 4 of 5 against the Yankees this year, with 1 meeting left tonight, of course. Aaron Judge went 0 for 3 and hit into a pair of double plays, dropping his batting average to .319. His major league batting lead, which he has held since April 16th, was cut to less than a percentage point over Athletics rookie Jacob Wilson. Austin Wells hit an 8th-inning homer for New York, which remained 1 percentage point ahead of Boston for the AL's top wild card. Starter Carlos Rodon, who had won his previous 5 starts, permitted 2 runs and then 6 hits and 6 innings with 6 strikeouts. 6 was his lucky number, I guess. Up next for the Yanks, still 3 games back of Toronto for first place in the division. Cam Schlittler will get the start in tonight's finale. Love this 3-game series against visiting Detroit, with the Yanks also trying to avoid a series sweep. First pitch from Yankee Stadium is scheduled for 7:05. Looking ahead to the Gridiron, Week 2 coming up tonight. Thursday Night Football, Amazon Prime, 8:15 p.m. kickoff. The 1-0 Washington Commanders at the 1-0 Green Bay Packers tonight. Packers there.
That's going to be a good game.
It'll be a great game.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Jaden Daniels, Jordan Love. Oh, yeah. Looking forward to that one. Packers there, 3.5-point favorites at home. Sunday, your local squads. The Giants are in Dallas against the 0-1 Cowboys. Giants 0-1 as well, obviously. That's a 1 p.m. kickoff. Cowboys 5.5-point home favorites there. Also at 1 p.m., the Jets will welcome in the Buffalo Bills, division rival there. Bills 1-0, Jets 0-1, of course. And the Bills in that one, 6.5-point road favorites. That is your sports know, man. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:19. President Trump calling for the man accused of murdering a Ukrainian refugee on a light rail train in Charlotte, North Carolina, to receive the death penalty. Here's Attorney General Pam Bondi.
The steps are we charge, then we indict, then legally we make the decision whether or not to seek the death penalty. That is certainly on the table once he is indicted for this horrific crime.
In a post on Truth Social, the president also said DeCarlos Brown Jr. should be given a quick trial because he says there's no doubt 34-year-old has been federally charged with committing an act causing death on mass transportation system in connection with the 23-year-old Irina Zarutska back on August 22nd.
The status now is we have arrested him. We are charging him federally because it was a murder on mass transit. This young woman died a horrific death, as we all saw captured on video. It was horrible.
From North Carolina, go back to Washington, D.C., a push to release the Epstein files gaining steam on Capitol Hill. Congressman Ted Lieu says they're close to getting the needed number of signatures on what would be a discharge petition.
If Republicans don't want to engage in a cover-up of pedophilia and this pedophilia ring, they should go sign this discharge petition.
Okay, so the California Democrat says he has 4 Republicans already signed on, but they need a few more to circumvent the House Speaker, and bring the bill to the floor for a vote.
If we can get a handful of Republicans to sign it, we can get this into a bill.
And he's pretty confident he can get a couple more Republicans on board.
A handful of Republicans is all we need. Democrats are all on board.
Yeah, the effort got a boost this week with the release of new information from the Epstein estate. 521, over 3,000 St. Louis Boeing employees are on strike, but now they could be headed back to work.
The International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers has reached a tentative agreement with Boeing to end a strike that started in early August. Union officials say the 5-year deal includes improved wages and restores a signing bonus. Union members will vote on the contract Friday. I'm Mark Mayfield.
Down to Florida, a Surfside resident living in the Champlain Towers when it fell back in 2021 says he's not surprised by the latest findings. They still don't know 100% for sure what brought down that building. Robert Lisman says he photographed the area right after the 12-story building fell.
I had a direct view of the site where no journalist, no one else had any view of it. And I was able to capture a lot of images that were used part of the investigation to understand better, what happened there.
98 people were killed. Lisman says his photos showed what National Construction Safety Team found, that the pool deck rather than the tower failed, and that might have been what led to the building collapsing.
I have photographs actually that show that area where the pool deck was detached, and it would pull down and you could see the rebar.
And he says, like many, of course, he has lots of questions about the investigation, which is still not over.
My concern is that the time that they've taken is to come up with new engineering standards rather than find out what happened and who should be held accountable. And that's what I want to see, is I want people held accountable for the murders of 98 of my neighbors.
523, of course, today, the annual commemoration, the 24th one of the 9/11 attacks. Nearly 50,000 people tied to the aftermath of the 9/11 attack have come down with some form of cancer. 50,000. Bill Keegan was one of the supervisors of the recovery effort at Ground Zero, and he has battled several cancers.
The toxins that we were breathing in, the work that we did down there, both physically and emotionally, took a toll.
The 70-year-old Keegan started a foundation called Heart 9/11. It's made up of 9/11 first responders who retired and now respond to other disasters around the nation.
We felt it was almost like a sacred mission, a vocation, if you will, that we committed ourselves to. And so when we began to get sick, we realized that it was a price to pay for doing that job. What they were looking for is mission again. They were looking for purpose. Yeah. They were looking to take their skills, their extreme training, and take it to others that might have the need.
Yeah, I can't even tell you what an incredible guy Bill Keegan is. As the country prepares to mark 24 years since the terror attacks, the Flight 93 National Memorial in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, is going to welcome in a new piece of Flight 93's story to its museum.
The Gate A17 sign is a tremendous part of the story of Flight 93. It really marks the beginning of that morning for the crew and passengers, and it's a common everyday object that so many visitors coming here can relate to.
That's Adam Schaefer. He's with the National Memorial. Says the Gate A17 sign that United Airline Flight 93 passengers walked under just prior to boarding it at Newark Airport 24 years ago has been placed in a new permanent home in Shanksville.
Almost 25 years later, that people come out every year to pay their respects to people they didn't know but are aware of how important their actions were, I think that's probably of great comfort to the families.
Yeah, and good job by the Port Authority, because they, redid a part of Terminal A at Newark Airport, and they thought to give that sign to the Shanksville Memorial. 5:20. Oh, but I should point out, before we head out at 6 o'clock, we'll hear from a family that just recently got a confirmation, an ID on their son who was murdered in the 9/11 attacks, and we'll get that before we head out at 6 o'clock this morning. 5:25. Former Vice President Kamala Harris taking aim at former President Biden's decision to run for re-election, calling it a reckless mistake. This is all in her upcoming memoir called 107 Days.
In excerpts obtained by The Atlantic, Harris writes she felt she was in the worst position to urge Biden to step aside, worried it would seem self-serving, even as she feared he couldn't beat Donald Trump. She writes that Biden's run was driven more by ego than judgment.
In this election, we each face a question. What kind of country do we want to live in?
Harris ultimately replaced him as the Democratic nominee after he dropped out in 2024, only to lose to Trump in what became the shortest presidential campaign in U.S. history. I'm Michael Kastner.
The Make America Healthy Again Commission is out with its second report. Correspondent Ryan Nobles reports that Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. wants to publish new dietary guidelines aimed at encouraging kids to eat a whole lot better.
He also wants to get kids more active through education campaigns like the Presidential Fitness Test. The report also repeating Kennedy's critique of fluoride in drinking water. Experts have long said that fluoride is a public health benefit.
The Department of Health and Human Services also plans to create this mental health diagnosis and prescription working group that would evaluate prescription patterns for common psychiatric medications. The previous report argued that children are taking too many medications.
Kennedy, a vaccine skeptic, is already pushing to revamp how Americans get vaccines. Now the report saying the government will develop policies, quote, ensuring America has the best childhood vaccine schedule and promoting, quote, scientific and medical freedom.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Thursday, September 11th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Beautiful day on the way. Sunshine, a little warmer than it has been. High 79. Tonight and overnight, a few passing clouds, low 64, and then we'll do it all over again on Friday. Sun, clouds, high 76. If you're walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 58 clear in Pearl River up in Rockland County. 57 clear in Freehold over in New Jersey, and it's 60 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. WABC News Time 5:39. Let's catch you up on everything we know about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. A manhunt ongoing for the killer of the influential Trump ally after he was shot at a university in Utah yesterday afternoon. Two people who were arrested have since been released. You probably saw the video of that senior citizen being shoved to the ground right after the shooting. He is no longer in custody, not a suspect. And then the FBI later in the day said they had somebody who they thought was the gunman. Now they've released that person. So they are saying they do not believe the gunman is anywhere near the campus of Utah Valley University near Provo, where this shooting took place. The students who witnessed this, he was doing Charlie Kirk, one of these Q&As that he does as head of the Turning Point organization that he founded, this conservative think tank that really appealed to younger conservative Americans. I can even tell you my younger kid was a big fan, watched his videos online. And if you aren't familiar with him, you're not alone. A lot of people don't know who he is, but he was a conservative spokesman that was incredibly popular with young Republicans. And what he did at these events, and was always really fascinating to watch, is he wanted to debate people who had the opposite view of him. And they weren't hostile debates. Sometimes the people who came up to debate him were hostile, but his responses were not. And I think that's why he became incredibly popular. And so when he made this appearance, and as he did at so many campuses across the country yesterday, people were just traumatized when they saw him being shot.
Just one shot straight into Charlie Kirk, and that was it. I was 15 feet away, and It was really hard to witness. As the guy said, shooting or shooters or something like that, you just hear the gunshot and I'm sorry. You just see his neck just like open up and there's just like so much blood that just came out. It was horrible.
Yeah, and if you saw that video, you're probably like me, sorry that you did. Last night, the President Trump, who was close with Charlie Kirk, talking about the assassination.
This is a dark moment for America. Charlie Kirk traveled the nation, joyfully engaging with everyone interested in good faith debate. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight, all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror.
The president, the White House, says they will work to find those responsible for the shooting.
My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it.
Yeah, okay, so this is again what we know at this hour. The manhunt continues for the killer. Those two people who were arrested yesterday, one right after the shooting, one later on, they have been released. And the FBI saying that neither have any current ties to the shooting. And they say it's not clear if police have any leads on the gunman, but authorities don't seem to think he's anywhere near the campus. So they began to reopen that campus in Utah late yesterday. 5:43. Let's bring it back home. In public, Mayor Adams says he's in it to win it. But apparently during an off-the-record roundtable with about 20 city leaders yesterday afternoon, 3 people in the room saying that Adams is appearing to shift his position, implying that he might consider dropping out in the future if it was best for the city. Now, these 3 sources talked to NBC News, and they say that the Adams seemed to be weighing whether he should stay in the race. Now, the campaign says Adams has not made a decision to drop out, but plans to conduct his own poll to make a decision on his future in the race. That taking place is the second place in the polls is Andrew Cuomo, and he's highlighting Zohran Mamdani, who's in the lead in all the polls, and his connection with an online commentator. The guy's name is Hassan Picker, who has outraged many by making comments in the past about 9/11.
Former Governor Cuomo stood with a firefighter suffering from 9/11-related cancer on Tuesday. The firefighter's family pointing out that Hassan Piker once said on camera that America deserved 9/11 and showed pictures of Piker hanging out with Mamdani. Mamdani's campaign accused Cuomo's campaign of trying to politicize 9/11, saying it's dangerous to paint the picture that Mamdani somehow supported the terror attacks. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
Now, we've had 2 polls in the last 7 days. The last one, the Emerson College poll that came out yesterday morning that shows Zohran Mamdani with a huge lead in the race with the 4 candidates. Second place, Andrew Cuomo. Distant third is Curtis Sliwa. And in last place is Mayor Adams. And maybe that's why yesterday, during what was supposed to be an off-the-record closed-door meeting, you had people saying that he was suggesting that he would leave the race if he looked at polls that showed him with no chance of winning it. In a moment, we'll tell you about the latest on a possible LIRR strike and how Governor Hochul is trying to prevent that. But first, 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Ellick.
Let's do it. Noam Laden. We'll start here on the diamond in Philadelphia. The Mets lost again to the Phillies in increasingly more convincing fashion as this 4-game set rolls along. The final score 11-3 in last night's Game 3 after losing 9-3 the night before. The Phillies opened a 10-game lead over the second-place Mets with 16 to play. Juan Soto launched his 39th homer and had 3 hits for the skidding Mets. Now just 6 games over 500, who lost their 5th straight. They are 2 games ahead of Cincinnati and San Francisco for the final NL wildcard spot. Clay Holmes was pulled after facing 2 batters in the 5th. He was charged with 4 runs and 6 hits with 3 walks and 2 hit batters, I should say. New York pitchers plunked 4 Phillies in the game. Up next for the Mets, David Peterson will get the start. Then tonight's series finale at Philadelphia. New York trying to avoid a 4-game sweep there. First pitch from Philadelphia is scheduled for 7:15. As for the Yankees in the Bronx, they got routed once again by the AL Central leading Detroit Tigers in the second game of a 3-game set last night. The final score 11-1. The Yanks bullpen has given up 18 earned runs over 2 games, raising its ERA since the All-Star All-Star break to 5-3-7. New York has lost consecutive games by 10 or more runs for the third time in franchise history. The others came in September 1908 and August 1988. Detroit has outscored New York 23-3 over the past two nights and won 4 of 5 against the Yankees this year, with one meeting left, of course, tonight in that finale. Aaron Judge went over 3 and hit into a pair of double plays, dropping his batting average to .319. His major league batting lead, which he has held since April 16th, was cut to less than a percentage point over Athletics rookie Jacob Wilson. Austin Wells hit an eighth-inning homer for New York, which remained 1 percentage point ahead of Boston for the top AL wildcard. Starter Carlos Rodon, who had won his previous 5 starts, permitted 2 runs and 6 hits in 6 innings with 6 strikeouts. Up next for the Yanks, still 3 games back of Toronto for first place in the division. Sam Schlittler will get the start in tonight's finale of this 3-game series against visiting Detroit, with the Yanks also trying to avoid the series sweep there. First pitch from Yankee Stadium is scheduled for 7:05, and reports are that President Donald J. Trump is throwing out the first pitch in Ohm-Laden. Any update on that? Is he
I think
for
he
sure
is.
doing that?
I think that's confirmed.
Okay. Even with that horrible news yesterday, with friend Charlie Kirk, he's still going to show up.
Well, I think it would be the opposite. He would definitely go because of that.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. So hopefully we'll see the president on the Hill tonight throwing out that first pitch. And looking ahead to the Gridiron, Week 2, getting underway tonight. Before you know it, it'll be Week 10. Thursday Night Football Prime Video tonight, 8:15. 1-0 Commanders at the 1-0 Green Bay Packers out in Green Bay. The Packers there, 3.5-point home favorites. And on Sunday, both of our local squads get the early afternoon slate once again, 1 p.m. The 0-1 Giants are at the 0-1 Cowboys out in Dallas. The Cowboys are 5.5-point home favorites there. And the Jets will welcome in the Buffalo Bills at MetLife, and they are 6.5-point home underdogs in that one. That is your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Alec on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:49. A week from today, LIRR workers could walk off the job. Governor Hochul weighing in on this looming possible strike. Members of 5 unions considering a walkout as soon as next Thursday. Governor Hochul, she's putting the blame on the potential strike on state Republicans and President Trump. Here she explains why.
Let's look at why we are here today. The president did something rather extraordinary and almost unprecedented, which is to say, okay, go ahead and do what you want now, go ahead and strike. That's unusual, and he owns it, as do the Republicans on Long Island.
The MTA says nearly 3,400 union members could go on strike, which makes roughly about half of the total workforce. The union representing most of the workers threatening to strike, which is the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen, currently taking a strike authorization vote. Now, the MTA has offered them a 9.5% raise over 3 years. That's what's on the table. The workers want 16%. Riders, well, they just don't want this strike to happen.
Delay me from working completely?
I think it'll impact a lot of people. Well, I never get a 60% raise over 3 years, is all I can tell you.
Yeah, it makes a good point. Union expected to announce on Monday whether its members will authorize that strike. And again, it could happen as soon as next Thursday. The MTA says it does have a contingency in place and plan, but of course it's horrible because you need those trains. So if there is a strike, there would be shuttle buses, which would take you to subway stations in Queens. I mean, it would just be a total mess. You're talking about 200,000 riders on an average day on the LIRR. Of course, we'll keep all on top of this story and keep our fingers crossed. 5:51 out to Coney Island, where tensions running high last night as residents voiced concerns for the Coney Island Casino. It's one of the spots that could be chosen. There was a final public hearing last night. The developers behind the Coney Island Casino announcing just hours before the meeting that they would donate $10 million in private construction funds to help build a ferry dock on the boardwalk if the project is approved. Now, supporters say the casino would create jobs. They showed up last night and attract tourists and local businesses.
We need it because nobody wants to keep going to the Atlantic City and places far when we could just get on the train. And you need somewhere for the grown-ups to go, for the kids to play, like they said.
But opponents argue it would increase traffic on Coney Island, crime. It would be a strain on the neighborhood infrastructure.
We need it it because nobody wants to keep going to the Atlantic City and places far when we could just get on the train. And you need somewhere for the grown-ups to go, for the kids to play, like they said.
Residents on both sides of the debate making their voices heard before the state decides who will receive one of the 3 downstate casino licenses. A final decision is expected to come sometime next year. New York City Council overriding several of Mayor Adams' vetoes yesterday.
One involves providing minimum pay and protections for grocery delivery work. Another is a law repealing excessive criminal penalties for street vendors. The council also voted on Wednesday to advance the closure of Rikers Island and to establish a permanent program that provides legal aid to domestic violence survivors in divorce proceedings. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
Out to Long Island, where Suffolk County Police giving us more information on a stabbing. A man stabbed his mother to death in their Brentwood home. This was Tuesday. Officers responding to this home on White Street about 5:30 in the afternoon on Tuesday after getting a 911 call. Investigators identifying the victim as 59-year-old Melidia Velasquez. They discovered her body inside the home with stab wounds. A short time later, detectives say they charged her 33-year-old son, Jason, with murder in the second degree. People who knew the family brought to tears as word of her death spread throughout the community.
He said Jason just stabbed his mom to death. Jason just stabbed his mom to death. She's dead. They found her upstairs.
Yeah, neighbors in that neighborhood just total shock today. 5:54, new stats show crime on the subway continues to go down and that it was the safest summer on the subway in 15 years. Governor Hochul says in August, major subway crimes down 23% and assaults dropped by 40%.
This summer, it's down 9% from just last year. So that is the trajectory we're on, continuing to reduce it when, in fact, 4 years ago, the numbers were just going up month by month.
Governor Hochul says the state will continue to pay for having 2 NYPD officers on every subway train during the overnight.
It was supposed to be temporary, but I know New Yorkers tell me they feel safer when they see officers on board, so we're going to continue doing that for the months to come.
5:55, of course, today is the 24th commemoration of the 9/11 attacks. Some ways it feels like yesterday, right? In other ways, it really does feel like 24 years ago. New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand continuing calls for Congress to fully fund the World Trade Center health program. Outrageous that anybody would vote against that.
This is the only way that we can guarantee that the 9/11 responders and survivors can get the care that they deserve. This is a matter of life and death for the heroes who put their lives on the line when the nation asked them to.
Yeah, so after 24 years, Gillibrand says recent data indicates nearly 50,000 people have been diagnosed with 9/11 related cancers. That money needs to keep coming in. Nobody should be voting against it.
But the cost of medical care has risen higher than the cost of inflation. And as more and more people get sick, the program has struggled to keep up with the cost of care.
Man, Congress has got to do right by all those people who were down there after the 9/11 attacks. And we'll end with this story. Nearly a quarter century after her son died in the 9/11 attacks, Diane Keating, a mom, gets final confirmation that her son was in the building. I mean, she always believed he was, but they had nothing to show for it. 26-year-old Ryan Fitzgerald was killed on 9/11. He was on the 94th floor of the South Tower for Fiduciary Trust, and he called her right after the first plane hit the North Tower.
It sounded like when he was a little boy. Such fear in his voice.
So Ryan Fitzgerald was one of the 3 people that was identified back in August, the first positive identification since 2024. Diane says she could not believe it when she got the call from the medical examiner's office.
I couldn't even talk. I had to hang up the phone.
It's like in complete shock.
They found a piece of my son. It's not closure. It just validates he was there that horrific day.
Now, to tell you how big of a moment this is, to this day, only 1,600 or 60% of the 2,753 people killed on that day have been positively identified. Now, the chief medical examiner, Dr. Jason Graham, says they continued to work their hardest to have an ID for everyone, but of course it's a long process.
People can accept and handle facts and the truth. Where they have difficulty is dealing with uncertainty.
Dr. Jason Graham is New York City's chief medical examiner.
Do you think you will ever identify everyone?
I don't know, is the honest answer. I am hopeful.
That was Dr. Jason Graham talking to New York One. Diane Keating also giving this interview to New York One, and she says thanks to advances in DNA technology, they hope they'll be able to ID others who lost loved ones. So she's giving this interview. She's never spoken before ever about her son on TV, radio, anything, newspaper. She says she's doing so to give hope to other 9/11 families.
I just thought this was the right time. I feel like families need to know that they are still looking and not to give up hope, as I did. Don't give up.
Yeah. All right. And we'll continue that commemoration of the 9/11 attacks, of course, with Sid and Friends in the morning coming up at 6 o'clock.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?